Well, this is DIY video number 3, or DIY, as they say in Essex. Now, I've got my phone out here, and I've actually just been browsing eBay. And some of the immersion chillers on there, oh, they ain't cheap. They ain't cheap. Let's just go through a few of them, right here on eBay. All starting roughly around, 35, 40 quid, £44.95, £32, £45, £33, £61 for an immersion chiller. It's not even stainless steel. So, I'm in my own mind when I say this, but I personally think that the immersion chillers available on the internet are quite expensive. And the people that sell them are clearly making profit, otherwise they wouldn't build them. So today I'm just going to take you on a visual tour of my immersion chiller which I built at home. This DIY video is probably a little bit more thrifty than some of the others because a lot of the parts are actually recycled from old things lying about the house. So let's crack on and get straight into this. And here she is. We'll do a few close-ups so you can get a good idea of this home build. One little thing before we begin. Regardless of whether you buy an immersion chiller or make one yourself, you're going to have some kind of tubing on the end for the in-feed and the out-feed. I always put them inside a double plastic bag just to make sure that if there is any water left over that I haven't managed to get out after a brew day, that over time this plastic bag can collect some of the water. And you can see there just some of the moisture that it's just collected just from sitting around. Right, so first things first, this entire immersion chiller cost me less than, I think it's coming up for £25. So let's go through each component bit by bit. Firstly, the copper coil, the most obvious part of the immersion chiller. This copper coil has a 10mm diameter, and this, I believe, is 10 meters worth of copper pipe, or 25 feet. So you can find copper coil piping like this in, at least in England, you can find it in B&Q. It's probably going to be the first place that you'll look. But if I can recommend one other place, not just for price, but also for quality, it's a store called Plumbase. There's many Plumbase retailing stores throughout the UK, so there's bound to be one that's local to you. And this copper piping cost just short of £17. It might have gone up, it might have gone down. The prices tend to fluctuate a little bit for some reason. £17, that's what I consider to be a good price. At the time, definitely cheaper than B&Q. Now, what you're going to find when you purchase copper piping is it's either going to be straight or it's going to be coiled. If you buy it coiled, it's going to take so much stress out of your life. When I bought this, it didn't come coiled in this diameter. This is roughly about a 30 centimetre, just short of a foot in diameter, 12 inches, kind of roughly thereabouts. But when you buy coiled copper piping, the diameter of it's probably going to be twice as large. You might be getting on for maybe 24 to 30 inches. So when you come to change its diameter, you really have to tease it around an object to get it coiled like this. A lot of people will actually wrap their copper piping around a corny keg. I actually did mine around a small stainless steel bin. You just have to tease it bit by bit until you get it to the diameter that you want. Anyway, let's get back to the materials. The in-feed and the out-feed hoses. I was very fortunate enough to be able to recycle these off of an old shower unit. We have one of those standalone shower units, and we had to replace it. And these pipes basically run out the back of the shower, and basically they do the same job that an immersion chiller does. They were kind of in-feed and out-feed. And of course they were the perfect diameter for the copper piping. A really solid tight fit, and they didn't cost me a penny, which is absolutely marvellous. Right, let's move on to some of the fittings. We'll move on to some of the end fittings first, I think. Now, for a lot of people, but in my particular case, I like to brew outside the majority of the time. So I wanted a fitting on the end of my immersion chiller, which meant I could connect it up to a hose. And water is going absolutely everywhere right now. I've got it all over my trousers. Good fun. So for that reason, I needed some kind of connector to connect this up to the hose. At least in England, but I'm pretty much sure it's a universal fitting. The majority of hoses will have a male end fit into them on your standard hose pipe. We've got kind of one of those extender reels, which means I can really drag out the length to where I usually brew. So for that reason, I needed obviously a fitting. Let's get this in shot here. Needed a fitting with a female end. As you can see, this is one of those spring-loaded fittings. But on the other end is not a male hose adapter. It's actually one of those ribbed fittings. They do have a name, but this basically allows you to connect it up to a piece of hosing like this. So very practical. I'm glad I purchased this. This same female hose fitting does actually come in plastic, I believe. I wanted metal because I knew that it was going to be wet, obviously, but also the fact that it's going to be out in the cold. I'm going to be using this every brew day, so I want something that can really stand up to kind of let me throw it about a little bit. So a metal fitting is what I go for. This was about, I think it was £6. But what I'm going to do is post all of the links to where and how much all of these components for the immersion chiller cost and where I purchased them from. This was from B&Q, and so was the other key part of this, which is the adapter. I don't know why just a moment ago I mentioned that most hoses have a male adapter on the end, which because they don't. They actually have female, which is the reason why I purchased this, which is a male-to-male hose adapter. So basically, you know, we clip this into the end, just like that. We clip the other end into the female end of the hose extension lead, and we can pump water through this until our heart is content. So a good solid fitting. Again, that's metal. I didn't see the point in buying one plastic and one metal. Might as well go all out, you know. It's from probably the most famous brand in England, Hose Lock. So you can't really go wrong. So that's the outfeed fittings dealt with. So let's move on to the infeed. And now I'm dropping stuff everywhere. Right, this is nothing special. This again was off the shower. And it's just basically like a right angle kind of a little outfeed adapter for the end. It has got a screw thread on the inside, which, you know, is an interesting prospect for something for the future. But the reason why I put this on here was just something to kind of hook over the edge of a lid of some container where outfeed water is going to come out. So, of course, it's going to come out, and I don't want it splashing everywhere because it's going to be near boiling. So just putting a little right-angled adapter means it's always going to come out straight into a vessel to catch that water. So that's that. That's pretty boring. So let's move on to some of the little fittings to keep this thing together, which, again, were recycled off the shower unit, really keeping costs down. If you can do it, then you're good to go, really. So all that's on here is just a whole load of what window cleaners call Jubilee clips, but you'll probably know them as hose clips, which are basically little small metal rings. You adjust the tightness of the screw, and that of course reduces the diameter until you get a nice tight fit. I've used this on both the infeed and the outfeed hoses over the copper piping. I've used two on the copper piping to keep the actual copper infeed and outfeed together, to keep this entire structure kind of as one, instead of it wobbling about all over the place. If you leave the infeed and the outfeed loose, they're just going to flop about, and this is just going to be a real pain. So again, the same fittings on the other end for the infeed. Again, another Jubilee clip or hose clip on the end there to give us a nice, tight, watertight fit. Don't want any leaks, especially into the brew. You could probably get away with a small leak on the outfeed, because it's going into a vessel anyway, and you're doing whatever you want with that water. It's not going to come into contact with your brew, so that's not as important, but it should still be pretty watertight, you know. So, the grand total then of the price of this immersion chiller, somewhere close to £25. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd prefer to save that £10 I could have used buying an immersion chiller off the internet for another good cause. You know, £10 is a lot of money when it comes to brewing, you know, especially when you buy grain or hops. You could probably buy about half of your ingredients for a brew day with that. So it's being thrifty in my eyes. It's being a little bit MacGyverish. So hopefully I've persuaded you with just showing you around my immersion chiller that making your own is definitely a good way forward. Not only that, but it's incredibly satisfying. I've never ever done plumbing before. So in conclusion, take the time to shop around. If you don't like the look of costs for immersion chillers these days, the prices just seem to be going up and up and up, then consider building your own. Happy Homebrew Wednesday, everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been of some interest. Peace.